if you all wanted to talk about this, we could be opening Pandora's box. But I watched a video from Lance yesterday, and I cracked up all the way through. This was the Libtardo one.
Watching a video from Lance is opening Pandora's
box.
We
got
I wanted to circle around it before I dropped the name, but it was so fucking funny.
Yeah, circle around it. Yeah.
If Lance wants to give us like the rundown of the whole situation where it got to the "you're Jimmy" moment, it would make my life. It would make my fucking life.
Well, fill me in.
Okay. All right, so I'm gonna give. I'll pass this one off to Matt at one point because Matt really did do a lot of detective work and sleuthing and put in the hours. So I don't want to take away his glory of discovering Libtardo 1.
No, there's
for the uninitiated.
No taken away, but go ahead.
Well, I'll hand it off to you because that part's even more hilarious. But for the uninitiated, Jimmy Dore's well known to have a burner account or 2 or 3 or 4. We don't know. He's got a lot of accounts on Twitter. Likes to sometimes use those accounts to speak about himself, or his wife is using them. Right, Matt? I'm not off on that. It's either him or his wife.
Pretty sure it's him at this point, but it could be his wife for some of them. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Either way, it's stuff you'd expect. When you're starting out, the game's the game. It's hard to make it in social media, so you maybe start a couple accounts to validate yourself every now and then. You'll be like, I could write something out and be like, yeah, and then use my other account to be like, Lance is right. Lance is so great and handsome. Everyone loves Lance and talks about how cool he is too. That kind of thing. So that's the equivalent of what's going on here. Anyways, I started feuding with Jimmy online because I made a post about how he was laughing. Like, first off, he laughed at Rebel News. Rebel News is a far right, Breitbart-like equivalent in Canada. You should not ever have to give it up to Rebel News. Don't, even if they're like, going after, the head of a pharmaceutical company, they're going to ask them, what about the 5G magnetism? They're not going to actually ask good questions. So they did that to Greta Thunberg, and they asked a whole bunch of silly questions, why is it so cold here? What about the global warming? Things like that. And I said, it's so sad that Jimmy was laughing at this as a gotcha. And so, Jimmy's fans must have shown him. He replies and immediately, was like, oh, blah, blah, blah. You lied about me. I pushed back. You're all liars over there. And then he went back and forth with some other people in the thread and eventually forgot that he was using his actual blue check mark Jimmy Dore account.
I will bring the tweets up. They are hilarious.
Yeah, it's so fucking good.
But he's straight up, like so I woke up to this, I'll have you all know. I woke up and I'm like in my bed and I'm scrolling through,
God,
and then all of a sudden I saw this. I was like, no, you didn't just write this in the third person.
No, this right here, this is why I don't have an alt account. This right here, this is happening. This shit is saying you cannot live down. This shit is this happened to even one of my friends, like a figure onto it, and I was just like, bitch, I cannot.
I will say though, potentially in his defense, maybe he's trying to be the character in Seinfeld who always called himself Jimmy and his name was Jimmy, and it created this whole issue with Elaine. So maybe that's what he's trying to pull off here. I don't know.
Maybe he suddenly started to refer to himself in the third person.
Yes, exactly.
Who knows? If we're being charitable here.
Why, your Jimmy has me fucking screaming.
You know what's awesome about this? He takes ratios so seriously. Like, I watched the segment the other day of his. He was saying that he was proven right about COVID because of a ratio that he himself helped make. He was like, look at this. Their own fans are turning against them. This proves that I was right. It's so good that I was proven right on all of this, And I was just getting blown out of the water.
That's so embarrassing. That's why I just curse people out with my whole chest. Like, I don't understand. Like, why not just be like, fuck you, Lance? Like, clearly, I was just, I was just, fuck you, Block. I'm like,
here, I'm gonna bring up this video, by the way, but no, sorry, keep talking.
No, that's also embarrassing that you don't have like a main fan that could have taken that flagship for you. Like, you know what I mean? Like, why'd you have to do it? Like, I'm sure you have fans who will come at Lance and be like,
oh, hey, and they defended him afterwards. They were like, oh, what, Surfs? Like, you've never had someone else use your social media account? I was like, no. How rich and famous do you think I am? Like a PR person? Are you kidding me?
So this is when Elaine meets Jimmy. And keep in mind, when Jimmy's talking about himself. He's Jimmy.
Look at me. Come on. I'm stretching right in front of you. Hey, a smile. We made contact. All right.
Jimmy is pretty sweet on you.
It looks like a young Jimmy too.
Jimmy's been watching you. You're just Jimmy's type.
Oh, really?
Jimmy's new in town. Jimmy doesn't really know anyone.
Oh, well, I'd like to get to know.
Jimmy would like to get to know you.
Anyways, eventually, you know, it continues on, and she finds out that he's Jimmy.
It's her reaction. You're Jimmy.
She's like, wait, no, that was Jimmy's friend. Wait, no, that's Jimmy.
It's so good because the whole reason that he ended up doing this was because Lance had shared a clip of him with the Rebel News and Greta Thunberg, and like he was defending them, basically harassing her for 20 minutes about the dumbest things. Like he was basically pretending as if Rebel News had legitimate questions to ask to Greta, as if they weren't trolls. Like they're asking her to basically explain the difference between climate and weather, so she naturally just disregards what they had to say, and she went along with her business. But one thing that I have to say, with regard to the Libtard 01 saga, I do want Matt Binder to look into some additional accounts because, so I'm not sure if you saw this. So the Vanguard responded and they shared a clip of Jimmy Dore kind of running away from some conversation that he had about Ukraine. And so, you know, they were kind of juxtaposing that with the Greta thing where he was criticizing Greta because Greta wouldn't answer basic questions, wouldn't defend her position. And so the Vanguard was like, well, what about you doing this? And so they shared that clip on Twitter. And then Jimmy Dore did not respond directly, but he went through their thread and retweeted individual replies to the Vanguard of them criticizing. So these retweets in particular are very sussy. And I feel like those could potentially be the next Libtard 01. Libtard 02, might I say. So there's some stuff for you there, Matt.
While I have y'all here on this, right? Because obviously I was late to the yeah. I was late to the Jimmy Dore. I only barely know who he is now. I have some information and I usually just try to keep my, but I know this. I have realized that anybody who likes Jimmy Dore seems to hate us. Like,
Yes.
like, if I hate us, I mean y'all and now me too. So no, might as well just
I apologize.
You're welcome, Ole.
No, I be getting so much, like, so I catch so many strays because of y'all. They just be shooting me all week. I be like, I don't even know these fucking people.
It's because they're literally right wingers, and like most of them, I think, know that. A few of them maybe don't realize it, but I think at this point, most of them realize what the hell's going on.
They do know. Yeah. There's a meme maker who loves Jimmy Dore who makes memes of all of us. And there was one video of Salt Bae sprinkling us into a toilet. And my face that they used was like smiling really loud. And then they photoshopped Jimmy's face on Salt Bae laughing, and also Tucker Carlson and some other right winger. I can't remember who, but like these are right wingers. Like they know it. Maybe there's a few leftists who think that he's left wing at this point, but I like it's got to be a small.
They so left that they become right. You know what I mean? Like they don't even realize it. Like
horseshoe theory come to life.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mike, in that clip that he got mad about, he was starting to like question out loud if the reason Greta was doing what she was doing was because of autism. And I was like, this was like what the right was putting out there, like 6 years ago, I want to say, was the kind of like super yikesy takes that they would come out. Like, well, you know, she's acting that way because of the autism. Like, what the fuck are you saying right now?
He's not very old.
2023. Yeah,
because he looks very old to me.
Yeah, there's old people who aren't assholes. Like Bernie Sanders is not like doing this shit.
But like, why is he on these people's head? Like, I don't really. It seems to me the only time I see him, and don't nobody, please don't get me in no bullshit. Don't tag me this man. I don't know him. I don't let him personal. But the only time I ever see anything from him or any mention from him or his world, it just seems like just trying to like dunk on other people that you allege to be on your same side of the fence, but you're like this litmus test. So it just feels like that all the time. It just always feels like petty, really petty things. Like, oh my God, like the door, like this whole, I was right. Every time I see him, something about him on the timeline, it's like, he said that. I'm like, I'm like, what? Yeah, we have a tally somewhere? Like, why are you?
He keeps score for himself.
Every
time I see him, like, okay, guys.
And that's why, like, anytime someone brings up the idea that the left is they're too they're too puritanical, they're purists, they're all this thing, what pops in my head are people like Jimmy Dore who pretend to be on the left, but are on the right, make money pretending they're on the left. All they do is attack the left. Like, you're never going to get rid of those people. Like, you can criticize the left all you want about how pure we are or whatever. Like, I'm very welcoming. I want to educate. I don't expect people to be, to be born with the right. I used to be basically conservative. Like, I understand people can grow and change. People like Jimmy are always going to exist because there's always going to be that incentive there to try and make money off of pretending you're on the left. Whereas, like, is there a right winger in media that's like really well known who only attacks the right? Like, does that exist?
I just find it so
There's no fucking money to do that.
No, there isn't. No, that's an excellent point, David. There isn't. You only ever see that from our side of it. Whatever kind of business, you only ever see it from our side. It's this constant. Why are you calling yourself a leftist? Oh, you're a liberal. You're this. Like, and I'm just like, it feels so unproductive. And I think about this. I'm like, are you actually producing content? Are you actually advocating for anything? Or are you just shitting on everybody else's? Are you just responding to what they're doing? And that's what it feels to me like. Oh, people know Greta, so now you shitting on Greta. Oh, this, da da da. Every time I look, I see you're like dunking on some other commentator, and I'm like, are you saying anything worthwhile if all you do is monitor what the other commentators say and be mad at that and shit on that and galvanize your support or lack of around that? Like, why are you trying to make yourself some kind of little demigod? Like, bro, just say what you have to say and shut the fuck up. Like, you know what I mean? Like, people need to go with it and they don't. Like, but I don't understand the need to. I feel like, if I think about it, I don't know many people that are like staunchly in the commentator space and abolitionists in the way that I am. And I'm not like, every time something policing happens, I'm like, let me kick y'all in the chest. I'm not on Twitter like, yeah, I fucking told you.
You're a real abolitionist. You're a fake abolitionist. Yeah. Like, can you
like, no,
correct again. Vindicated. Hell yeah.
I think like it would be different. I understand. I would get it more if they were having. If we weren't if you're not the people that are the face of something and you're making a larger conversation, if you're just saying something to your friends and privately in the but you're the person people are going to for discourse and conversation. So now you wasted time and energy, and a bunch of people are now focused on some stupid shit, like criticizing somebody else or commenting on that, as opposed to actually running on, like advocating for anything. It's just so annoying.
My favorite is when they bring someone like Marjorie Taylor Greene or Trump and be like, they're further left than AOC is. This is like some sneaky bullshit.
David, I just sent you a video in the chat about that very thing. It's
Did
only
you?
1 minute
Okay, let me
long,
see.
but it's exactly about that. Like I had a molecular biologist on the show. Sorry, I can't speak right now. A molecular biologist on my show yesterday. His name is Dr. Wilson from Debunk the Funk with Dr. Wilson. Everyone go subscribe to his YouTube channel. He's super based. He debunks all the right wing conspiracies on vaccines and COVID and science.
Yeah, this shit.
But he found so many things wrong with what Jimmy Dore was doing here. It was monumental. Thing after thing.
I love the fedora. Yeah.
That she's out lefting the left all the time. She was out lefting the squad on Ukraine. She's out lefting them on COVID, and she's telling the truth about COVID. So she says, remember when they told you not to take ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine to help you with COVID? That's all this can muster when he's smearing people who are right. And this guy ratioed him. He said, you should be ashamed of yourself. He got 117 likes. This guy's only got 33. His own followers are done with this bullshit. Bullshit. You should be ashamed of yourself. So that's why I'm showing you this, because it's encouraging. Because for 2.5 years now, I've had a 1 million pound weight on my shoulders, wondering what's going on in the world. No one will listen to science. No one will listen to logic.
You should be ashamed of yourself.
Ivermectin works like a motherfucker.
Oh my
now,
God.
I can't say it works on.
He is not
COVID-19.
still saying this in 2023.
You should be ashamed of bullshit.
That's nice. Oh my God.
You don't look respect. I'm not even nobody get mad. This is just genuinely uncanny. This ain't even me trying to roast them. But he don't look just like Rumpelstiltskin from Once Upon a Time. That don't look the same man. That's not the same man. That's not the same man. Like,
just imagine the fedora on him, right?
Right? Like that was like
the fedora on top, yeah.
Yeah, he tipping his fedora to Marjorie, milady. Oh, I cannot deal with it. People need to understand, though, that he has to pretend to be on the left in order for the grift to be lucrative. Because think about someone like Dave Rubin. Dave Rubin, as the gay conservative, has real utility. He can say, no, this homophobic bill isn't homophobic. But like, what does Jimmy bring to the right that's like unique? He can be brought on as the leftist to explain to Tucker Carlson how the left is wrong. But once he just says, no, I really am a conservative like all of you, then what's left? Comedian? He doesn't do comedy anymore. Like, the only comedy is Mike McRae doing hilarious impressions that Jimmy Dore reacts to. That's the extent of his comedy career. So, like, his only utility is to be the leftist. That's the one thing that sets him apart, which is why he hasn't just come out as a conservative. But, I mean, he's deeply conservative. He literally agrees with the right on, like, 9 out of 10 issues. The one thing that he gets credit for is he supports Medicare for all, although he didn't support the candidate in 2020 who supported Medicare for all. But you get what I'm saying, right? Like,
personal beliefs don't mean shit when you have a platform. It's how do you use your platform?
Right.
How do you use your power? You can. Oh, I believe Medicare for all. Yeah, but all you fucking do is shit on every single person that like supports it. Like,
that advocates for it. Yeah.
No, dead ass though. But people didn't like. I was on Rising a couple days ago talking about the police, LAPD killed Keenan Anderson. And I basically said that to Robbie. Robbie's always like, oh, I'm skeptical of the police. He says that as a blanket statement, but then any conversation we have, you're just caping for the police. I'm like, no, I'm like, no, you're not. She like, let's keep it real. We need to stop allowing commentators, representatives, and people to just make blanket statements about what their belief is, and then everything contradicts it. And we just it's like, well, how could you can't just, and the problem with it is they say it so that it lends it credibility. If you say, I'm skeptical of the police, but every time you cape in for the police, they're like, well, they're skeptical of the police and they're on the side of, so you know what I mean? And that's the same way. It's like, oh, I'm leftist. So when you're shitting on everything left, it's like, oh, well, that's not the same. Then people lend it more credibility, like they're being a reasonable, rational mind that's assessing this objectively because they announced that they are skeptical, even though, so.
Yeah. You have politicians do this too, like Josh Hawley pretends he's like a working class senator. He worked in he was a corporate lawyer, I believe, and now he just introduced this Stop Pelosi Act, I think it's called, where it's about stopping stock trading like in Congress, which is fine. But when you call it Stop Pelosi, you're not really going to pass it with a Democratic Senate, are you? Like, it's so clearly just an attempt to try and gain attention, gain notoriety, get on camera. It's not any serious attempt to actually pass anything.